You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Hi, this is Tony L. Collins, and I'm here with Cheryl, and this is the Legal Connection Show. That's TLC with TLC, to give you a little TLC.
That's right.
We are here to serve the public and answer your questions. And today our show is going to be on juvenile law part 2. Last week we covered quite a bit of information about how the law affects children and what their rights are, and as parents and as guardians, sort of what your rights are. And today we're gonna cover a few more topics which we feel are really, really important that you probably don't know about. I certainly didn't until I went to law school. To kind of recap a little bit, Cheryl is a licensed attorney in Texas, and I am a licensed attorney in Texas, and we are terrifically busy, but we are doing this to help the Conroe area, Montgomery County citizens with a lot of questions that they email us. And today I'm here with Cheryl. And
Good morning.
Do you feel better
Afternoon.
since last week?
I do, actually. I can breathe and sit in a chair.
Yeah, I didn't mean to laugh. that you,
Tony, you did not laugh. We talked about
I
this.
thought I laughed. My husband was like, "Don't laugh when people are injured." Like,
Last week she said, "Oh, Cheryl's got a broken rib."
Yeah. I must have thought it was funny that, oh, Cheryl broke her rib. Oh, well, it wasn't me. Anyway, we're here with Becky.
Hello,
Becky with the blonde hair. She told me not to say that. But, Beyonce, I don't think it's Beyonce's, competition. But it could be. I don't know. We haven't talked to Becky about it yet. Okay. So, anyway, Jay-Z, stay away.
Yes, please.
So anyway, we are gonna cover 4 topics today on juvenile law, things that I think are really interesting and important to you. And the first segment is going to be on changing your child's name. And just for a little, a little sidebar, if you had, like me, when I had the perfect name picked out for my daughter and my son, and I was like, these are the names, and I kind of went through all the gyrations of what their names were going to be. And then when I had her, my mother-in-law was there, and she's like, absolutely not. You are not naming your child that. And then my then husband, who, he was sort of partial to his mom, maybe more so than me in hindsight, and that's why I'm not together with him.
Well, it's a good thing you got rid of that guy.
I loved him to death, but, Mom was first. Honor your father and your mother, but there's a spousal thing kind of going on, too, in the Bible, I think.
Well, and leave and then cleave unto your wife. What about that part?
Thank you. You know these things. I need to kind of defer to you. I wish you had been there at that time.
I would have said it.
So anyway, I ended up naming her my kind of third choice. And then I thought after the fact, particularly after we got divorced, I thought, I want to change her name to what I wanted. She's not the name that we named her. My daughter was very happy with the name that we gave her, though. But if I had my way, I would have changed her name to what I thought was more appropriate for her. And I will tell you now that her name is Brooke, but I wanted to name her Scarlett. And my brother-in-law was like, that's evil. She's evil. I'm like, no, she's beautiful. Vivian Lee. That's my favorite movie. Okay, so our first segment is changing a child's name. The second segment is going to be on removing the disabilities of a child. And any child under 18, any person under 18 is considered a child by law, and you have to remove those disabilities to be able to function. And so you're going to go over that. So Cheryl's going to do the first 2 segments, and then the second 2 segments are going to be on. Let me see. The one of them is on
the children's property.
Oh, that's right. Children and their property. What happens if your child gets property? If they're become famous and they have a show like Justin Bieber. You as parents or as guardians, have hit the jackpot basically because they don't have access to it immediately unless, some legal stuff happens. And then the other is going to be children and the law. And what happens if your kid gets, what happens when your kid is taken in by the school or if they're truant. And that's really, really important because so many parents do not know about this. Okay. So now the mic is yours, Cheryl.
Okay. Well, so we're talking about children's name change. Before I just start answering questions, I'm going to ask you, Tony, why is it such a big deal about changing a child's name. I mean, why is that such? I have a client right now, and we're in Travis County in Austin, jurisdiction. She wants to change her son's name.
How old
and
is the child?
He's 5.
See, that was when I was going to change my daughter's name.
Yeah.
Right around the same
So,
time.
but
Is she going through a
why is-
divorce?
Well, actually, they were never married. She never married her baby's daddy.
All the more reason.
Well, that's right. And so she was being nice and sweet when she had the baby and hoped that, he would be a good dad and all that stuff. And so she gave the child his father's name. But so now we've got to jump through all these
Is he a
hoops.
junior? Is the child a junior or something?
No. Mm-mm.
See, if somebody, I would not be naming a child
But
a junior.
why? But do you know why we make such a big deal out of changing their name?
I think it's biblical, actually. I mean, it's a really horrible thing to say, or, I don't try to, not a horrible thing, but I don't want to go that direction necessarily. But I think that when I really got to thinking about it, it's because God recognizes you by the name that you're given, which is
Okay.
kind of scary. If you're changing the name, was God going to recognize you? Because
Okay,
remember when Jesus came
okay.
out of the tomb and he knew Mary by her name immediately, and she knew it was Jesus because he knew her name?
Right.
I mean, it's a big name
He
thing.
called her name.
And then Jesus was changing the name of Israel, Jacob to Israel, or he's
And
always changing
Abraham,
names.
right,
Yeah,
Abraham's name.
Abram to Abraham.
Uh-huh.
Names are really a big deal.
Okay. So it's our Judeo-Christian background.
Well,
Yeah,
that
that's
and I
what you
think in God, But on the other, so your name really should be the name that you should have. I mean, you identify with it, but like Prince and the symbol, that was a little bit weird.
What?
Remember Prince, the music artist?
Yeah, no, I know
Okay.
Prince.
He
What did
changed his name to a symbol that you couldn't pronounce, and you don't remember that?
No, he's a
Cheryl,
weirdo.
where are your rock
I
and roll
wasn't-
roots?
well, not with Prince, I can tell you that.
What? A Purple Rain and Party
I
like
know.
it's 1999
no, I know.
or?
Oh, I know all that. Yeah,
Ugh.
those are the only 2 Prince songs I know.
Oh my.
But okay, well, talking about changing a child's name. Okay, a child's name is legally established by the name that appears on the birth certificate. That's their legal name. If the name is misspelled, then it's got to be amended. The birth certificate actually has to be amended, which is interesting. And the only person that can change a child's name is a judge.
So that means to amend the birth certificate, you actually have to go to court?
Yeah, you've got to file a
Yeesh.
petition and ask the judge for a name change. And like I said, I've got a client in Travis County right now, and they are fighting. We have been able to agree pretty much on everything. And,
What, the parents?
well, I actually had to sue the baby daddy for
Right.
all sorts of things, and they've
So
agreed.
you're talking like a rock star, baby daddy.
Well, okay.
Jay-Z, Becky with the blonde hair.
Yeah, I had to actually sue the baby daddy on behalf of my client. My client actually sued them. I did it on her behalf for all sorts of things. And the only thing they're fighting us on, not child support, not life insurance for the guy, not all, is the name change. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
my dad wants it named after him.
he does.
Guys are kind of. I'll have to ask. Our station manager of Dick here. Are you like sensitive about? Are you like sort of have no humility about your name? In other words, if you had a child, would you want them to have your name, or would you not have a problem with it?
Well, I'm the 4th
Oh.
Richard, so
Oh,
That's so true. I noticed that the other day.
so
so you would have no.
It's a big
It would be
deal.
a big deal if you had a kid and you had if you had a baby with let's say your significant other and they named the baby the 5th,
okay.
but then that significant other was like, oh, number 5, this is like King Henry VIII. No, I can't deal with this. Please, we just need a name change. Would you be okay with that?
Well, I think if we're already to that disagreement, we're probably not together anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned being in a relationship with a lady is you just let them have some things.
Happy wife, happy
Yeah.
life. Yeah, you
So-
are a smart man. You're going to go far in life.
Well, the way I see it
This
too
is why we love him. He's
is
awesome.
I can always call him by the name that I want to call him.
Yeah.
And then she can call him by another name.
So maybe you need to have a word with the opposing side with her case. But yes, I think you're exactly
So I
right.
mean, it's all about what's on the birth certificate. But then again, that's
That's insignificant because that does, like, and I hate to say this is what you would call him, but, like what do they call Bubba? Bubba seems to be a pretty prevalent thing that's not on birth certificates, but in Texas, everyone's Bubba.
Yeah, no, we have. My sister uses Bubba for one of
Oh no,
one of our
is
brothers.
the baby's name Bubba?
No, no,
Okay, there
that's
you
just what
go.
that's just what she chose to nickname him as.
A good, a little insight,
Bubba,
but
that's sweet.
I
Bubba.
like the whole thing about happy wife, happy life, or that sort of that going that direction. That roadmap is a good way to live. Your life will be long and happy, as they say in fortune cookies. Okay,
Happy life, happy
happy
wife,
wife, happy life. And now my third husband got that.
Good, good for him. You're very fortunate, Jim. We're rooting for you. That's great. Okay, so only a judge can change a child's name. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Only, and you know, like what Dick just said. I mean, we can agree to nicknames and all of that, but only a judge can change a child's name. The petition. So you've got to file a petition with the court, and it has to contain the present name and address of the child, the request that the child's name be changed, the full name given to the child, the reason for requesting the name, and the standard of the burden of proof is a child's best interest. You've got to prove that it's in the child's best interest. Did you know that a child under 12 does not have to consent to having their name changed?
So 11 years and 11 months, and Mom wants to name you Blue Moon.
Engelbert Eckerdink. Ishkabibble.
Well, the mom, I think at that point, probably even the judge would be like, we need to have a mental examination.
Well, do you know, this is just kind of FYI. In some countries, certain names are illegal, like in Sweden. I remember studying this a couple of years ago. In Sweden, people thought they were going to be funny, and they named their kids things like Zipper or Out for the Day or just random silly names.
In Sweden?
Yeah.
That's
and
because they're smoking the weed over there or whatever.
Right.
They're
And so the
going-
government made them have to approve the name through the
Really?
the state.
Wow.
the
Talk
nation.
about government intervention.
Yeah, because they didn't want their kids named things like Danger Zone or I think it actually.
Don't be giving our listeners any ideas.
I know it actually
Danger
arose
Zone,
from
Bubba
Death
Smith.
Metallica or something. They just thought they were being funny. They started naming their kids these random, ridiculous names, and so now their names have to be approved through some name approval board.
You know, in some cases, I'm thinking that may not be a bad idea to have government intervention because just like with ice skating, there should be an IQ test, I think, before people get on there and try some crazy things because they'll kill themselves. Some people may need, before they have kids, to have like a little test because
Tony's an ice skater. She's,
Yes, I
she's
was.
a big time ice
we're
skater.
not involving Becky in this.
I
Becky,
know,
do you have any
what do you
kids?
think about names? Yes, she
I
does.
do have kids. I
And
do
did
have
you name
kids.
them Danger Zone Bubba Smith?
No,
Okay.
but yeah. But I have a sister-in-law, and she's German, and we just had this conversation just the other day
Really?
about how she said in Germany you have to have the name of your child approved. They don't
In Germany
allow that.
too, see, so she's
Crazy
backing. This is why I brought
Nazis.
Becky today. She's going to back up the random things I added. Really? In Germany too, huh?
Yeah.
Because people name their, they think they're being funny.
Yeah.
And they name some, I can't remember. I really think it was like Zipper, the name Zipper. Oh, isn't that funny?
So anyway, the judge has to. So how long does it take? Is it just like a regular petition?
It's a regular petition. It can take, 3 to 6 months.
Well, I know when
depending.
I've done name changes for adults, it's $150, so it's not real expensive, and you can pretty much do it on your own a lot of times without an attorney.
Yeah.
So-
Well, see, this case that I have over in Travis County, it was several different causes of action. So.
Okay, and yet they usually do include them within a petition if it's for adoption or.
Exactly, that's
So-
right. It's you can change it when the child is being adopted, or
But that being said, you know what? Adults can change their name the same way, but not for fraud. A lot of people try to change their name for fraud, and I have
Yeah.
another guy that did that for a fraud. Like they've done a lot of bad things, and they try to go change their name so they won't be found. That is a background check for adults, so you're not going to get to do that. So,
really.
yeah,
Well, that's good. That's
Fingerprinting
good
and
to
background
know.
checks, they can't just change their name, right?
That's good to know. And you don't have to change a child's name when they're adopted. It's that you don't have to, but you can, and that's most commonly the time that the child's name is changed. So the legal effect of changing a child's name is that a new birth certificate is ordered and or is issued, and
Does the first one is it expunged, or what happens to the first one?
I guess the new one just it takes priority.
I know that when I've looked for people before, when I think there might be fraud involved, I can find adult name changes in the civil court records in the county where the name was changed. I doubt you could find that for a kid, though, because juvenile records are sealed.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Well, I think that we are ready to take our break. And so on our next segment, we'll go over what is your next segment going to go over?
Removing disabilities.
Okay, so you're listening to Legal Connection. We're on the air between 12 and 1 each Tuesday. And we'll see you in a little bit on legal disabilities.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app for your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That is Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
Hey guys, this is Connor.
This is Dick.
This is Chris.
And we're with the Ticket Stub Podcast every Thursday live at noon on 104.5 and 106.1 FM in the Conroe area. Also, anytime at irlonestar.com. You go to irlonestar.com/TTS. You can find all of our social media.
And don't forget, we give away 2 tickets to the Grand Theater on every show.
If you like movies and you like complaining or celebrating anything that has to do with the silver screen, check out the Ticket Stub Podcast and join us every Thursday at noon o'clock on Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection with Tony and Cheryl and our special guest, Becky. Becky, not with the blonde hair. She's here today helping us out. Thank you, Becky. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want you to know that you can look us up on www.legalconnectionshow.com, and you can contact us at legalconnectionshow.com/contact, or email us with questions at legalconnectionshow.com. So we're here today talking about juvenile law. Tony was talking about this last week, and so we've made this a 2-part series, and we were talking about child's name change. And to me, I don't know, it's just interesting that it's such a big deal. I think that's neat, and I think you're absolutely...
What's in a name, as Shakespeare said.
Right.
A lot.
Well, and it's like Scripture says, that the name of the Father is the glory of the child, Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. I have not thought
that just
about
supports the case where the guy has junior and they're getting...
But it supports also what you said, that it goes back to biblical roots of why we take it so seriously. And then Dick is, he's the 4th generation of Richard. So, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to us. What's in a name, like you said. So now we're going to go on and talk about disabilities and removing disabilities of minority. That's sort of like a convoluted phrase. Becky, what do you think that means, removing disabilities of a minor?
Well, because I'm from an education background, I think we have IEPs where each child has a disability of some sort, and when they reach 18, maybe they need to get rid of it
Yeah.
to go into their adult life. Am I right?
Yeah, that's close. Disabilities of a minor, we were talking about this over the break, is that you can't really own property. You can't enter into a contract.
No, you cannot.
Yeah.
If you are not an adult, you cannot enter a contract. You can't go into the hospital for surgery. You can't file a petition. You are not a person in the eyes of the law. You're not an entity as a minor. You have a disability. Your disability is you're too young. However, we're going to go over, and you're going to help us with how to remove that disability, or what the exceptions are to that, because we all know there are exceptions.
So you're saying every minor has a disability?
In the eyes of the law.
At least in the state of
law.
Texas, anybody under 18 and under, not 18, but under 18 is considered a minor and has a disability, and is prevented from doing a lot of things like collecting their own profits for the business. And many people under 18 have their own businesses, but we're going to learn today about how to make it so that you no longer have the disability of being a minor.
Right. So disabilities of minority, you just said some of them. One thing you didn't mention is right to earnings. As a minor, you don't even have a right to your earnings. Your parents have a right.
Isn't it great
to
being a
your
parent
earnings.
of a talented kid?
No kidding. And I think that's why we see those parental suits. Like I know Leanne Rhymes, I think she sued her.
Yeah, Selena Gomez. I'm not suing the parents, but I'm just saying these are very, very talented. They had stage mothers. Like I just read that. Who is the girl that was Selena Gomez's sidekick? And she's got Demi Lovato.
Demi
DeVito.
Lovato.
Lovato.
Right.
Levito, Lovato.
At least I've heard that name.
Yeah, her mother was a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader.
Like Tony. Tony was a Houston Oilers
I
cheerleader.
was. Well, I wish that I was like a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. We kind of jiggled. We didn't have the same.
And being from Dallas, I have to say I am partial. They are beautiful.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
They're
And
so
but we
gorgeous.
we were cute and we did our thing. And I
Tony
think
was gorgeous
our
and still
outfits
is.
were amazing. I
Oh,
loved our
yeah.
outfits. Of course, they did change them later to look like skating outfits, which is still kind of partial to that. But anyway, so Demi Lovito's mom was a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, and the only reason I knew that was because she was on Good Morning America recently talking about a book she wrote about eating disorders, which was kind of weird at her age because she's like our age. But anyway, she got her kids into, automatically was getting it like a stage mom. She immediately was like putting them in commercials, and Demi Lovito's younger sister is on another show. I mean, she got all her kids doing stuff, and so she collects their proceeds as the parent. So somebody collects it, but Demi Lovato doesn't get it. But that's when they get older, or if someone dies, if a parent dies, and there's Social Security and what have you, there's a guardian that gets that money, and that's the same with child support. The child support goes to the parent,
Right.
and it should be used for the child, but it goes to the person that's controlling it, and that's why you have all these divorce cases where the guy or the woman, whoever's getting the child support, doesn't want to give it up because they don't think it's being used for the child. They think that they're just, they're getting like the little spousal support, which they're
Right.
not happy about. But yeah, so that's part of the deal.
Wow, that is so interesting. Well, your disabilities, so a child can petition for their disabilities to be removed, right?
And I think that you said that's what Liam Rimes probably did.
Yeah,
correct?
I think she did. She sued. I remember her suing her father. I think he was squandering her
Of course.
proceeds or whatever.
He's thinking, but for me, you would not be.
Yeah, that's so funny. I've never actually really thought about it like that.
So
You
they're
know,
thinking,
that the children, I guess, they're treated like their parents' property in a way that that the parents have a right to anything the child earns, and they can spend it on whatever they want.
Well, to some extent, you would. That's sort of true because the parents have given them the education, the guidance. They've sort of like raised them. But on the other hand, it's of course they're an individual. They're the ones with the what it takes, the soul and the perseverance, the person that's actually doing it. But yeah, a lot of parents do think that. I do recall my dad actually telling me that I had you if it weren't for me, and I remember thinking, oh, my dad is so right. If it weren't for him, honor your father and your mother. That's so true. That if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here to be able to produce. So I do owe them, but not everything. They should be fair. So.
So how does someone go about having their disabilities removed? They have to file a petition with the court, right?
But can that child file a petition with the court? I would think not.
To file in Texas, you have to be a resident of Texas, and you have to be either 16 or 17 years old. You cannot be 14, 13. You can't be anything under 16.
Okay.
And at 18, of course, you wouldn't even need to do it. But so
See, I was thinking when you were 16 or 17, you'd still need a guardian or an ad litem to petition for you.
Yeah, no, not
Really?
according to the law. Yeah, you can do it when you're 16, but not younger than that.
Obviously, I have not done a petition for emancipation of a 16 or 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Because typically I'm not my clients are, I do have a lot of 16 and 17-year-old clients, but they're already on their own and it has not been an issue because I'm getting them not from a civil standpoint, but from a criminal standpoint. And we're going to go over that in one of our next segments about what happens when you have a child or a person that's under 18 that's getting in trouble with the law or been accused. They may not even be in trouble. There's a lot of, school cops that have got attitudes, that I've been exposed to, and they're trying to do the right thing. I think sometimes they're not. Sometimes they
Or hiding things? Or?
no, they have control issues. I mean, it's sort of surprising. There are so many wonderful police officers and public servants, and 99% of the time they're amazing. But sometimes you get that 1% that maybe just out of high school or just they're in their 20s, and
Right.
they have some sort of I guess ego or personality situation where they want to sort of show their muscle and have control. And so they're
And they
pushing.
do that by changing their name?
No, not changing their name. We're talking about disabilities.
Oh. Sorry.
Let me slap you around a little bit. They don't know. I guess they could change. Maybe these are the same people that have changed their name. But when they're in school, the school cops are like anybody else. Sometimes you've got authoritarian figures that take that power and use it wrong. They don't
Right.
use it in the right way. They're not doing, as we're supposed to live like Jesus did. They're not doing that. They're not serving others. Instead, they're like, I own you, and you're going to do what I say. And the kids has an attitude. All kids have an attitude. Well, I take that back. Many kids have an attitude.
Right.
Like, don't you tell me what to do. I sure can, because I'm over you. And then you have a spat with an adult, and it happens quite a bit. It's not, and this happens with adults.
Yeah.
When a police officer, like with Heather Locklear, we were talking
Right.
about 2 shows ago, when the
Right.
police officer comes to the door and she's like, "You're not going to arrest me." Well,
And
it
then
was
she starts hitting them. Or
yeah, it was
something.
like, well, we're coming here because we have we're looking at a call here to make sure that everything's okay, and then a fight starts. So there's always going to be people locking horns when alcohol's involved, and a lot of times there could be alcohol involved so for whatever reason, sometimes you have school cops that and they're not always as helpful as they could be. Maybe they're hardened by it because they've been doing it for too long and they have a lot of sassy kids, or for whatever reason it may be. I don't know what it is.
That would be me. I have a lot of sassy kids.
Well, that's you as a parent, as opposed to
Right.
you as a school cop.
Right.
You're a school cop.
Okay, well, so in order to change a name, you need to file a petition.
Wait a minute, you're still on name changes.
No, I'm on disabilities. I don't know why I said that. In
Carol,
order to remove a
Becky,
disability,
will you knock her upside the head for me, please?
I don't think it would help.
It's like Mojo Jojo. Here, get that little thing on top of your head.
This is disabilities. In order to
Carol's got a disability today.
I do. It is about disabilities. In order to remove your disabilities as a young adult, 16, 17 years old, you have to file a petition with
Yes.
the court. You have to the petition has to include the child's name, the address, and the age, the name and address of each parent or managing conservator,
Right.
a guardian. The reason why the removal of disabilities would be in the child's best interest, so we've got the same standard
Right.
as the name change. See, at least I'm right on that.
Right. Yeah.
The child's best interest, and a statement whether the request is for the removal is for general purposes or for a limited purpose. And if for a limited purpose, what limited purpose? So, I mean, what about that, Tony? Do you know what would be general purposes or limited purposes?
As far as removing a disability, even like I said, I haven't done one for a child because I haven't had that situation yet. I would probably say that the general disability would be if there was a situation where they had a divorce and the mom wanted the same name as the child, so there wouldn't be sort of that stigma in school that their mom had a different last name. And I remember I didn't change my my kids even after I got remarried twice until I got it right. I didn't, and the second husband, he wanted me to change the name, but he was possessed. There was no way. I never even considered that until I got an exorcist, and that didn't happen. Instead, it was divorce. And so I didn't change my kids' names. I wanted to keep their names the same as their father, and I kept my name the same because I didn't want them to have that stigma. I wanted when they said Mrs. Sherritt, whatever. So anyway, I've not finally changed my name, so I'm TLC. Otherwise, I'd be TLS. And I think that would probably be general, because generally you'd want if there's not there's not a specific reason, but it would just be for their good in general, so that they could have
Just
the same
the
name as
best
the parent.
interest standard.
A specific reason may be that their name was Mojo Jojo, and
Or Zipper.
or Skipper,
Uh-huh.
or like with Frank Zappa's kids were all kind of crazy names, Moon Zappa or whatever. So I think I don't know. Am I kind of getting close there?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Yeah, and so anyway, who has to be present? So then the court, you file the petition, and then they have a hearing. And who has to be present at the hearing is the child and the child's guardian or
Don't they have to be
parents.
served? Don't the parents have to be served with the petition? though?
They do. They have to be served, and then they also have to be present at the hearing.
Okay.
And the judge is the one that decides whether the request for a name change is valid, and
And it moves pretty fast. The name changes I've done for adults, it's a really fast setting. It's, the judge just asks you a few questions, and he's already read it beforehand, he or she, and usually it's granted, and they file the paperwork, and then you can go pick up the new, the order, the certified copy of the order, and then from that point forward, the name's changed.
Okay, and so changing a child's name too does not change the legal age that a child may drop out of school. I mean, we just said on the break, we looked at the age you can drop out of school in Texas legally is 16 years old.
But that's only with the exceptions, and we're going to go over that in our next
And
segment.
the removal of disabilities, I think I may have said name change again, but the removal of disabilities does not affect. And so we'll talk more about
You're
that.
still focused on name change.
I don't know. I don't know. But, you know, Tony and I want to know that we're here for you. Email us with your questions at legalconnectionshow.com, or call us at 281-529-5862. We'll be right back after the break.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question, comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station on irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
Hey, Montgomery County, it's me, C.C. Holmes. And I would personally like to take this time to invite you, that's right, you, to join me every Saturday and Sunday from 3 until 7 p.m., where I will bring you the very best of smooth jazz, classic jazz, and indeed, yes, the soulful sounds of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So come along and get jazzy with me. That's right, jazzy. Right here, of course, on Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 FM, or worldwide at irlonestar.com.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection with Tony and Cheryl. We are two Montgomery County attorneys. We're licensed in the state of Texas, and we're here for you. We want to reach out to you in our community. Today we're talking about juvenile law, and if you are having an issue, have questions about juvenile law, or you know someone who does, then reach out to us send us your questions, and we can help you, and maybe we could represent you if you needed some help, legal help in the court. But email us at questions@legalconnectionshow.com. So here, Tony's going to take it away. We're talking now about children and their property. So, Tony, tell us about children and their property.
And this is very similar to minors having disabilities. It kind of segues really well into this. And our viewer and listener questions relate to this. And so the ownership of property is one of the areas where the rights of children differ most significantly from the rights of adults. A child can't own property in his own name.
Yeah.
So a child can't have a car.
It's like we were talking about in the last section.
Yeah. An adult must hold it in trust for him or her and use it in specific ways for the child's benefit. A child doesn't even own the wages he earns. So 16-year-olds that have summer jobs, that's really not the child's money.
Yeah.
But parents don't get any ideas. You cannot break into that piggy bank.
Well, yeah, don't tell my kids that. Boy, they'd have a fit.
His parents have the right to that money. As my dad always told me, that's my money. And I'd be like, yes, sir. And then I'd go hide it. And he never took my money. But he made it clear that he was the one that had authority in the household, which is really appropriate. I mean, he would have a roof over my head, and I did honor my parents very much so. Legislatures apparently recognize that children lack the judgment to manage and preserve their property. I think that's probably true at about 50% of the time. But I was very responsible as a child. So I think more so than my mom. So I think that's sort of a misnomer.
That children are irresponsible?
Yeah, children are responsible. I think if they're responsible enough to go earn the money, they're responsible enough to be able to take care of it.
Yeah.
And I watched the Brady Bunch.
Yes.
I know Cindy and Marcia and Jan all could take care of their own money. Of course,
They
I never
sure
looked at what the
could.
guys were doing.
Yes.
So they also lack the maturity to meet the responsibilities which property ownership imposes, which maybe I kind of doubt that. It kind of goes to the same thing. So for their own benefit, that responsibility has been delegated to their parents or their guardians. And lawmakers also may have thought that the money earned by the child or received is the child's property. So anyway, they went about it. The lawmakers went about trying to make it so the child had a lot more control over their own property. All of that matters. That when we're talking about all of that matters when we're talking about inheritance, and that's a huge deal.
It sure is.
Because people like Howard Hughes, his parents died when he was 19, so he didn't have that disability. But what if and he inherited a lot of money. Was Howard Hughes responsible enough to take care of those millions? Well, he had a lot of money, and apparently he was a genius, and so he knew what to do with all of that money. But he did some crazy stuff with his dad's millions. Yeah, he was a genius, and he knew to parlay it into other stuff. But if his dad was probably rolling over in his grave if he found out that his son had gone and bought a movie studio.
No kidding.
And made a bra for Jane Russell, you know. And this is another interesting, like, kind of sidebar about children and their property, even though Howard Hughes was 19. I guess in other states it might be 21 and below. It's 18 and below here in Texas. But Howard Hughes, his house, when he was a child, it was actually located where the Rockets play.
Really?
Yeah, that their actual home was located on that lot of land. He grew up. So if he went to go visit Howard Hughes' home, they moved later to a house that's now a part of St. Thomas University. So you can visit the Howard. It's called Hughes Hall or something like that. But as a child, where do the Rockets play? I forgot. It's the name of the center. Come on.
Toyota Center.
Thank you.
Nice.
You were talking about, and I should know that because I always go there and I watch the concerts and all that junk. But yeah, Toyota Center could have been the Hughes, historical marker because that's where he grew up.
Wow, I didn't
So
know
anyway, he inherited a ton of money. Had he been a little bit younger, he would have fallen into this category. So that being said, inheritance, trust funds, Social Security benefits are other items that spell relatively big bucks, big chunks of money that belong to kids that somebody else has control over. That said, never share the awful truth with Mary Lou that her doll really isn't hers, or with Billy Bob, that you are the true and rightful owner of his bike as his parent, because that could make you be even more discord. You're talking about, them calling CPS. Like I was listening to this rap song, and the rap song basically said they could control their parents by making fraudulent false reports to CPS. And kids do that. They do. Little bad seeds, Lolitas. Ooh. And I've dealt with them before too. So from a legal standpoint, not my own kids. Yeah, they wouldn't have survived that with me being their parent.
Right.
Been like, you're going to disappear, child. Okay, so anyway, one of our listener questions is, can a child ever legally manage his own property? I think we discussed that a little bit before. Not unless his disabilities of minority have been removed by a judge or he's married. So you can marry out of it. One of the duties of a parent under the Texas Family Code is to manage the estate of the child until he's 18. So long as the parents are married, they have equal rights to manage the child's estate. Okay, and then
So long as they're married.
yeah, but or if the child gets married. So marriage changes the whole
It sure
thing.
does,
Okay,
right.
and you can get married. I know this in Texas with the written consent of a parent, one of the parents, which is crazy town to me.
At
Because
16.
yeah,
but
because
it's
parents
not at any age. It's,
yeah, at 16, I believe you can go to a judge and get a judge's consent. But as young as 14,
Right.
with a parent's consent, you get married off like to Jerry Lee, like that one girl, that crazy Stodden girl that got married really young. I think she was in Tennessee or California. She married that real old guy on the reality show. Anyway, parents, do not be marrying your kids off just because you don't want to take care of them. It doesn't work like
Right.
that. We are not living in the Middle East. Okay.
That's
Can a child legally execute a contract? If his disabilities of a minority have been renewed by a judge or he has ever married, yes. Otherwise, no. May another person legally bind a child to a contract? Yes. But this is a touchy area. The person must have been given authority by a court or to act in the capacity of a child. So that you can get around it, but you've got to have the authority. What happens to a child's property when his parents are divorced? Big deal here in Texas. The judge will decide which parent will manage the child's property. We are talking about substantial property, not clothes and toys,
right.
like, to argue over.
Not personal
Such property is usually described in any lawsuit as the property affecting the child. Does the child have the right to manage the money he earns? No. Only his parents have a right unless there is what we just discussed, whether we've got some disability removal. Is child support paid to a managing conservator on behalf of a child, his property, the property of a child, or the managing conservator? The managing conservator has the right to use such money as he believes best. However, the money is supposed to be used for the benefit of the child. Are Social Security benefits payable to a child payable to a child, his property, the property of his parents, or the managing conservator. They are the child's property, but the custodial parent or the managing conservator has the right to use the funds as that person sees fit for the child's benefit.
Okay.
This is huge. That's why parents want to be.
Yeah, and
Why
have a
not?
lot. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to go to break right now, but we want you to know that you can listen to us live every Tuesday from 12 to 1, or you can download the podcast. Go to irlonestar.com. We'll be right back after the break.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show. With monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Hispanic Chamber Connections with Dr. Carlos Sanchez, President of the Woodlands Conroe Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, featuring event announcements, member highlights, and more. Tuesdays at 1 p.m., broadcasting from the heart of Conroe, Texas on irlonestar.com and Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection with Tony and Cheryl, and our special guest today, Becky. She's visiting from out of town, and we're so glad she's here with us. We're talking about juvenile law, and we've been talking about name changes. We've been talking about removing the disabilities of a minor, and now we're going to talk about truancy, children and the law. Is that right, Tony?
Yes.
Okay. So, but we also want you to know that you can tune in on Conroe's FM 104.5 or 106.1 every Tuesday. And we just kind of feel like this is like a coffee house discussion, sitting around the table with our friends. And you know, we feel like that, both Tony and I feel like that you serve God by helping each other. And so that's what we want to do.
Now, did you go to coffee houses when you were a kid?
Well,
You said coffee house, and I haven't heard that term in so long.
well, you know, Starbucks and all that stuff. But
Well,
Starbucks
that's
has been
like
around
a
forever.
true coffee house. I remember when I was a teenager, it was sort of right after that hippie era, and many of my friends went to coffee houses, and I was thinking, because I drank a lot of coffee, I was from Louisiana, that we were going to have coffee. No, they were like revivals, like little teenage mini revivals.
Yeah.
And, you know, at first it kind of scared me a little bit, but then it became just sort of, they had discussions about the Bible and stuff like that. And I remember, I think I may have discussed this with you, you know, on a break or whenever it was, I can't remember, but this song that keeps coming to my head was by second chapter of Acts, He Has Risen, and it just keeps going through my head over and over, and it was a coffee house song.
Was it really?
Yeah, and
I
it was
didn't
called
know
the
that.
Easter song.
Yeah.
And hear the
Oh,
bells
I know,
ringing,
Tony.
the singing.
I saw that on Facebook.
It was like, oh my
You
gosh, I
you
haven't heard that
posted
song
on
in so
Facebook,
long.
and I've sung it in my head ever since.
Ever since.
Hear the bells ringing, they're ringing. Yeah, I
Christ
love
is
it.
risen
From the dead.
Yeah, and
Boom, boom, boom.
It's like it's one of those things. Like when you're a kid, you hear these
Do you remember
things.
that
I do.
Yes,
do.
and
yeah.
I just love the song. And then I was like, I love that song. And those kids were our age too. And this is an interesting little sub fact about that group, the second chapter of Acts. Their parents died when they were young, very,
Were
very
they
young.
siblings?
They were all siblings. Second
Oh.
chapter of Acts.
Oh, I
The
didn't know
oldest
that.
daughter had gotten married, so she had her disability removed.
Mm-hmm.
The two younger ones did not have their disabilities removed, even though they were from Washington State, I think. I can't remember exactly which state it was, but it wasn't Texas. And but they all sang around the. That was what they did. They harmonized, and they wrote that song. And they, the two younger siblings, they'd written the song, or they put it was actually a Bible verse they put to music somewhat, and they were singing to make money with the older daughter and her husband in different like restaurants and coffee houses, and they were discovered by like Pat Boone or somebody like that, and
Whoever did the Myrrh label back then, that was
Right.
Brown Bannister.
and then that was like one of their first songs, and it was like their most popular one, and they harmonized. And it was the tragedy was that their parents, the mother died of a brain tumor, brain hemorrhage.
Oh, wow.
The dad had
I
cancer
did
2 years
not know
later,
that.
and they had all these kids, and they were orphans.
Wow.
And the sister had
well,
kind of taken them.
it was just 3 kids, right?
No, there was 9. And they were like the youngest ones.
Oh.
and they harmonized, and so that was really kind of tragic. And I just remember thinking, wow.
I have never heard that story.
But they kind of put their faith in God, which you have to in situations like that.
Well, they didn't they really put
They
their
had
faith
to.
in
They didn't
God.
have anybody.
Right.
They didn't have any money. They didn't have any parents.
Wow.
And that kind of goes to what we're talking about today. Children that don't. What do you do with children in the law? What do you do in that type of situation?
Right.
But we're not going to talk about good kids that we're singing at coffee houses about, God rising from the dead and writing a very popular Easter song.
Right.
We're going to talk about what is more sort of as a parent, you don't expect your child to ever get in trouble because they're going to go by your example. But a lot of times as a parent, you're working. I remember I was a working parent. I feel so bad that my parents didn't get all of my time. We just couldn't afford it. And so I had to work. And so my kids were like, what do you call latchkey kids? They had to come home after school by themselves.
Is that what they call it, latchkey?
Oh, I can't remember. But
it's key.
Something key. But anyway.
Was it latchkey?
Yeah.
So I felt like they got the raw end of the stick because a lot of my other friends that were Woodlands moms, the kids, the people I grew up with, and so my kid they didn't get the supervision, and I had to trust that they would come home from school and that they would do the right thing and they would do their homework and they weren't running around. And when they were in teenagers, teenagers are like little mini adults. I mean, I was talking about last week when we had Juvenile Part 1. You have to hopefully raise them and they take your example and go with it. And you trust that they're going to do that, but kids their brains aren't completely formed yet, and they take chances, and they're sort of, it's kind of fun, like, just taking off, and you watch movies, and they do crazy things, and like Jumanji or whatever. I mean, whatever the movies are with kids that do crazy things.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yes, exactly. I don't know why I keep thinking of Lolita. That may have been more me. No. The Bad Seed comes to mind. That's a little bit younger. But the Bad Seed would be a good example of it.
But that's what we're talking about with the juvenile law.
The child is telling you to their face, and they're being like your little Pollyanna, and everything's great. And really, behind the scenes, they're murdering people, for profit, because the 7 deadly sins will hit you at any age, and they do for kids too. Okay, that being said, one of our listener viewer questions is, what can happen to a child who commits a crime? Well, I've represented many, many children in juvenile court in Montgomery County as well as in Harris County. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, sort of by the time I get to them, they're timid and they're scared and they're basically in juvie. They're in juvenile detention. Those are more harsh. That's the more harsh reality of a crime. Most of the time, the kids do not end up in juvenile detention because you can't get a bond for a child because they're not considered criminals. They're considered juvenile delinquents that ever gets that far. They're not even considered to having committed a crime. It's considered bad behavior. It's considered conduct in need of supervision. And when a child is shoplifting at the mall and they don't have a juvenile record, more than likely a parent is called. And if there's a parent to release them to, and the officer or the mall cop or whoever is there feels like that there is appropriate supervision, then they release them to the parent. And they usually will have a court date set. That there's a ticket. It's like a Class C, but there may be more to it. And they're released, they have to go back to court. It's either going to be the JP court, like over here at Woodlands Mall, and that would be a lot of our listeners may be able to relate to this. If your child is shoplifting at the Charming Charlie's or whatever it may be at the mall, and a lot of kids do it.
American Outfitters.
Yeah, American Outfitters, yes. It happens a lot. I'm talking about rich kids that just are...
Yeah, for fun.
Yeah,
They
like,
just want
who was that
pair of
actress?
underwear.
The one that was in Edward Scissorhands?
Oh,
Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder,
Elmer
right?
Fudd, I cannot talk about
Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder.
But didn't Lindsay Lohan do the same thing?
Yes,
Wasn't
yes.
there like a shoplifting
These girls that
thing?
don't need to shoplift,
Yeah,
they just do
for
it, and
fun.
they're taking expensive stuff and stuffing in their bags and stuff. This is let me just tell you, I have a lot of kids that do it at Walmart and at J.C. Penney for whatever reason. Word to the wise, hello, broadcast this out to everybody. They've got cameras and they arrest everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. I have more Walmart cases for petty theft than you can ever imagine.
Really?
And they don't let up. Walmart will say, oh, we won't prosecute. But then the state says, we don't care what Walmart says, we're prosecuting. And you have got a lot of money you're paying an attorney to get your kid out of that if you don't qualify for a court-appointed attorney.
Right.
And so it's really, really bad. But they will release your kid to a parent. But if there's no parent to release them to because they can't get a hold of them, then the kid will be taken to the station. They will be taken to juvenile detention. They do not put a child under 17 with the general population. They will put them in the juvenile detention center. And this is where it changes a little bit with juvenile law. and capacity. It's a little bit weird. If you're 18 and under, you're considered a child. You don't have any rights. However, if you're 17 or over, you're considered an adult in the eyes of the law as far as a crime is concerned.
Really?
So it's a little different. You will get put in general population if you are 17 or older. You can be arrested. Your parents don't have to be there. You have different rights between the ages of 17 and 18. So I know that because I've represented a lot of 17-year-olds. And if it's a significant crime, you can be certified almost immediately by a judge, like one of the magistrate judges. And there has to be.
When you say certified, what do you mean certified?
They're being certified as
declared
adult.
as adult, right?
Yeah, you're going to be thrown into adult population. Now, the age 10 and under, you're never going to be certified as an adult in Texas. And if 12 and over, because you now have more of the age of reason, that kind of kicks into family law as well, where a child at 12 and over used to be able to determine or make, not determine, but say which parent they wanted to live with to have the primary residence.
Right.
They can't do that anymore. But I think the state of Texas and a lot of the legislative, the statutes have determined that 12 and over, a child has reason, and I think that's probably a good age. But they've removed it for determining parental. Where you're going to live, or I think it's because there's a lot of bribery, a lot of bad stuff goes on in divorce. So, another word to the wise: please pick your spouse wisely. Don't be a 15 and pregnant type of situation, because we're going to go over that a little bit too. We may have juvenile law part 3, but divorce is really a bad situation. Okay, so if a child is under the age of 17, the offense isn't called a crime in Texas; it's called delinquent conduct. Less serious offenses are referred to as conduct in need of supervision. Lawmakers try to spare children the stigma of being labeled criminals. What happens to a child who breaks the law depends on two things: the age of the child and what he or she did. If a child is 10 through 16, she may have to appear in a juvenile court or answer charges filed against her by the state of Texas. If the offense is a minor one, she may go instead to a municipal court. And we just went over that it could be you're almost always released to your parent if you don't go to juvenile court, because there's no such thing as a bond. You don't get a bond as you're a child in Texas.
Right.
If a child is 17, but the offense is charged, the charge occurred before the 17th birthday, she will still appear in juvenile court rather than stand trial as a criminal court. If the child is 9 or younger, she can't be charged, he or she, with an offense in juvenile court. However, her behavior must indicate that the abuse or neglect is present, and law enforcement and CPS can investigate to see if that's the case. So there are, I don't know if we have time for another one of our listener questions. How much time do we have on this segment? 1 more minute? Okay, so 1 more minute. I'm going to answer. Wrap it up?
We need to wrap it up.
Okay, then we'll have to get, there's so many other questions that we need here to answer here. And
yes, well, send us your questions at legalconnectionshow.com. And you can download our podcast tomorrow. Just go to irlonestar.com and check us out on Google Play or iTunes. So we're here today talking about juvenile law. We'll be here next week, Tuesday, 12 to 1. And thank you for being our guest, Becky.
Thank you.
It's good to see you, and we'll be back next week.
And remember, serve God by serving your neighbor, and that's what we do at this show.
That's right. Y'all have a great week.
Thank you for checking out this production of Lone Star Community Radio. Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station. Don't forget to check out this show and many others across the Lone Star Community Radio Network, either live on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, the Lone Star Internet Radio app, or irlonestar.com's live audio stream, and on replay on podcast, Channel 12's Our City TV in Conroe, or Channel 21 KVQT in Houston, and of course their YouTube channel. This production is copyrighted and all rights are reserved by Lone Star Community Radio. Have a question regarding this program or other Lone Star Community Radio shows? Want to sponsor or start your own show? Call the station message line at 936-647-3776 or email the station at lscrstudios@gmail.com.